Hi, this is Lisa Lynn Eveleth, the founder and CEO of LiveFit with Lupus. If you want the inside scoop on how to live a more fulfilling life, you should be listening to my good friend Lisa Stroda.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Holistic Life Coach podcast, where you'll get some motivation, inspiration, and value from movers, shakers, world changers, and unabashed dreamers. If you'd like to share your story, contact me through the show's website, theholisticlifecoachpodcast.com, and we'll see if you're a good fit. This week, I chat with CEO and founder of LiveFit with Lupus, Lisa Lynn Eveleth. Lisa tells us how she has lived with lupus for over 20 years and how it has affected her career as a personal trainer and the reason she started her foundation. Now, on to this week's episode. Lisa Lynn Eveleth holds a bachelor's degree from Western Illinois University. She also is certified in nutrition, coaching, counseling, exercise science, personal training, yoga, and Pilates. Lisa is a professional speaker, a published author, the owner of Body Design Fitness and Wellness, a fitness instructor, a model, and held the title of Mrs. Iowa 2015. Having lived for over 20 years with the challenges of the autoimmune disease lupus, Lisa discovered the path to wellness through nutrition, exercise, and an integrative medical approach. This journey led her to become the founder and CEO of LiveFit with Lupus. With Lisa's guidance, this nonprofit's mission is to educate, empower, and inspire others to overcome their own obstacles and create autoimmune awareness in the community, nationally, and around the globe. Welcome, Lisa, to the pod. Thank you for joining me today.
And hello, Lisa. Lisa squared.
yeah, we are. But can you tell us, before you tell us about your journey with lupus, can you explain to our listeners what lupus is?
Sure, certainly can. Lupus is an overactive immune system where your body attacks itself, so to speak, in layman's terms. That's the easiest way to put it. We don't have that commander to say, hey, just kill the bad guys. Don't kill the good guys. It kills whatever it wants. It has a party in your body, pretty much. And so it can affect anywhere, any connective tissue, blood-forming organ, your blood. Skin is a large organ, joints, you name it, from head to toe, it can affect everything in your body.
So can you tell us about your journey with lupus, how it began?
Sure. Well, it kind of started when I was young. I would have bloody noses, at the playground. That's one thing we first noticed. And so I didn't actually get a diagnosis first with lupus. I got a diagnosis with ITP, which was called idiopathic thrombocytopenic purpura.
Wow.
Which
that's a lot. Yeah, it is.
Now they kind of say immune because they don't like the word idiopathic, I think, which they don't know what the heck causes it. It's idiopathic. But immune thrombocytopenia purpura, which is a blood disease attacking the platelets. So again, that's a lupus symptom. I just didn't get a diagnosis. That was one of my first symptoms, which was a pretty life-threatening symptom to have because that was debilitating as well. And I had a splenectomy and a exploratory surgery to see kind of what was going on. They weren't quite sure, so they did remove my spleen, which did calm my symptoms down for a while. But it was a long. I could tell a story about that itself. It was kind of a long journey. Not being able to shave my legs, afraid, the doctor wouldn't let me use knives. Just bleeding to death because my platelet count got so low. So it was pretty scary.
Yeah. Sounds like that. Wow. And then what happened from there after they removed your spleen?
So it seemed like, things calmed down for maybe a year or two. And then I started getting some more symptoms. They always told me that it wasn't a curable disease, but it could be manageable. So they were hopeful that the splenectomy would help and carry me through. But unfortunately, I was one of those where it didn't, and things kind of exasperated as far as symptoms. I
Mm.
started getting, gosh, probably more bloody noses. I started getting rash across my face, like the butterfly rash, the molar rash they talk about. Started getting lesions all over my body and my skin, my chest. Started getting mouth ulcers, nose ulcers, fevers, low grade
Yeah.
fevers constantly, weight loss. I kept losing weight, my weak, joint pain, everything hurt. My hair was falling out. Gosh, you name it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't having very much fun.
Hmm. Yeah. And then
so
how did they diagnose that? How did they
so
come up with that?
so finally, I just kept thinking it would go away each
Hmm.
day, and I started teaching classes, and I thought, well, maybe it's from working out, and no, of course, when you see yourself every day, you don't really see how sick you are
Uh-huh.
until I went home to see my mom, because by this time I was in college. And so I went home to see my mom, and she was astonished by how I looked. And finally, that night, we went to the ER, and I got pretty much a diagnosis there. They saw a lot of symptoms. They saw the scar from the splenectomy. They
Hmm.
saw my rash. They saw, I mean, all the symptoms I had, pretty much gave it away. So then it was just getting a true diagnosis and labs and things like that. So I was sent to the rheumatologist the very next day, and
Uh-huh.
then from there it started.
Yeah.
And then the trial and error with all the medications, and it took a long time to really get back normalized,
Hmm.
to get back living. And it was a roller coaster ride really for the next 10, 15, 20 years after that. So
Wow.
I'd say 10 to
Yeah.
15 probably.
Yeah. With different treatments and
Hmm.
figuring out what worked for you and what didn't work for you.
Yeah, I've done. So they did do in the beginning, because since I started having kidney involvement and then brain involvement. So then they started doing. So I had seizures, many strokes. I was having. I had class 3 and 4 nephritis, which is basically the lupus. I would say was attacking the kidneys, attacking organs, the brain, attacking. So it's kind of a crazy time. So they did do a lot of chemotherapy then.
Hmm.
So we did cyclophosphamide. We've done Imuran. Um, Tried that in the beginning. Of course, always on steroids. I mean, I couldn't get off steroids, or I'd start to have a flare. I'd try to get down and taper down, have to go right back up.
Oh.
It was just a battle trying to figure things out and balance things out.
Now, is chemo a typical treatment nowadays for
It,
it?
I mean, it can be not quite like how I did it, because when you have, it's usually only an option with organ involvement.
Okay.
Like you wouldn't do chemotherapy if someone had joint pain or things like that. But when it
Hmm.
becomes more life threatening, they've got to suppress the immune system, because
Okay.
it's so overactive that's attacking your organs, and that becomes tragic.
Yeah.
So they have to really do something about it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay. And there. So, how did lupus affect your career as a personal trainer?
Well, with being
With, I
said,
mean,
with all that being said, sometimes I would be homebound, hospital bound,
hmm.
wheelchair bound. So yeah, I had took some breaks from working because I could barely take care of myself.
Hmm.
So it did affect, clientele, because you get a momentum going, like with any business.
Hmm.
Same like with COVID, as everyone has experienced. You kind of lose that momentum, and not that it's meant to happen as far as losing clients, but sometimes you lose clients in the process because you're not there for them, and understandly,
Uh-huh.
it happens.
Yeah.
So it's just life.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it took its toll, but I was always able to build back up, and
Mhm.
then go back to the flare ups and build back up, and kind of it was. I had to
Did,
work a little harder, I guess.
so, did your clients know that you have lupus, or did they just know that maybe you were out sick and
Oh
nothing,
yeah, I mean,
specific?
definitely get close to your clients,
Uh-huh.
and just like bartenders, I think you get to know them pretty well and their life story.
Hmm.
And so they always knew what was going on, and they totally understood where it was coming from, and was definitely become friends and became visitors for me helped me out
Yeah.
during my sickness. Maybe took some of those shifts that I had to, if I had to be cared for 24/7, then, so my husband could work and my mom could go back to work. So
Yeah.
they had shifts and they took those shifts, which was really great.
Yeah, that's great that you had a wonderful close relationship with your clients.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's good.
Yeah.
Very good.
So now, what made you want to start a foundation for those with autoimmune disease? Because I know LiveFit with Lupus doesn't just cater to people with lupus. It's different autoimmune diseases, and there are so many.
I know.
Unfortunately, there are so many
Absolutely.
autoimmune diseases.
Yeah. So, I did a little work with the LFA, Lupus Foundation of America, and actually it was the American Lupus Society when I started. And the one thing I noticed, we'd have support groups, and I did start a few small events like a 5K, and we did some bowl-a-thons and things like that, and I raised some money. But all the money went to Des Moines chapter instead of the Quad Cities. I wanted to keep things in the Quad Cities, and I also wanted to have more of a positive experience for patients.
Mm-hmm.
My husband would always come pick me up after we'd have a support group meeting, and I was almost I wasn't filled up, so to speak. I wanted people to feel filled and not so drained after a meeting. It's good to vent, don't get me wrong, but I guess I wanted to teach patients not to be victims. I think that's so important because that's all I would hear. Someone would complain about this and this and this hurting, but they didn't take any action steps to move forward. And that's what I wanted. I wanted people not just to vent, and not just exist and keep the same cycle, the vicious cycle over and over. I wanted them to live and experience life. And so I just wanted to change that. And I didn't see that in what I was feeling in those support groups. So I thought, if I start something myself and I can help other people, even just one person, and I want to give them hope. And, I'd been through so much that I wanted them to know, like, if they were suffering the same as I did, that there was hope and that I was finding ways to have quality of life, and I wanted to share that.
Yeah. It is so hard to get out of that victim mode.
Yep.
And feeling when something like this happens, and I myself having celiac and Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and I had chronic migraines, so I was in bed for like 5 days out of the 7.
You understand completely.
It's like, why is this happening to me?
And we all have to go through that.
Yeah, I think that's a necessary stage, because as much as I didn't want to be in that stage, I had to go there just to go through it and then climb out. And like LiveFit with Lupus, like you said, it helps you climb out of that. And I remember a meeting, and we were all talking about our symptoms. And all of us there had different autoimmune diseases.
Yes.
Things I had never heard of.
Right.
And it's funny because when we talk to people about autoimmune disease, a lot of them aren't aware that what their friend has or their relative has or something they heard about is an autoimmune disease. And so when we were talking at that meeting and talking about our symptoms, we realized that most of us have the same symptoms.
Absolutely.
And especially brain fog.
Yeah.
we complained about that word searching. Yeah, I've become like a human thesaurus. Yes. And I'll even tell people, it's on the tip of my tongue. I know what I want to say. I just don't know how to say it.
A few hours later, I'll be like, yes.
Yeah. Like, yeah, now I know what it is. I've come up with so many tricks for that. Like, I use my reminder app in my phone. And and I use it for the littlest things. A friend of mine hurt her foot, and I'm like, oh yeah, I want to know how's her foot. I'm like, shoot, I can't text her now because she's probably busy. So I put a reminder app in my phone for 9 a.m. Text her about her foot.
Do you know you can schedule text messages?
No, I didn't know that.
Okay, I'll show you that later. Just a little tidbit. Yeah. In case you learn anything here today.
Yeah. So, yeah, and when you're around people who experience the same thing, who knows what you're going through. It's just so comforting.
Yeah, it's refreshing. I
Yeah.
mean, it's neat to talk to like-minded people, and they understand, even though, you may have great family support, great spousal support, just great friends around you.
Hmm.
If they don't have exactly what you're or know exactly what you're dealing with, it's tough to explain or understand, or sometimes you don't want to bore them with the details. But then someone that is experiencing what you are,
Hmm.
it's so important to have the like-minded community.
Yeah.
For sure.
Hey, we're going to come back to the show in a minute. Could you do me a favor? Could you fill out a form at the holisticlifecoachpodcast.com and jump on the horn with me for 10 minutes? I'd like to know your likes and dislikes about the show and the biggest reason you're listening to the show. This gives me a chance to get to know my listeners. Thanks. Now, let's pick up where we left off. Oh, yeah. I was speaking to a pain doc once, and he said he had a patient that would come in, and he was prescribing some heavy duty painkillers like fentanyl, things like that. And he says he had this patient that he had seen for quite a while, and she came in one day, and she was happy, and he says, what's going on? What happened? I got a diagnosis. You did? I have lupus. And he says, and you're happy about that? Yes. I have been wondering for years what's going on. Whenever they do tests, they can't find anything. And now something showed up. And she said, my family thinks I'm crazy. They just think I'm a hypochondriac, that I'm feeling all the, well, your tests are normal, so it must all be in your head. And she says, now I can tell them this is what I have. He says, oh, okay. But I mean, that is really important when you have a diagnosis. I mean, I think it's something, it's like, okay, there's the target. Now I can go towards that. I could figure this out. And
Right. You have a little bit more direction, I think,
yes.
and unfortunately, not everybody gets that, label, so to speak. Because I mean, I know you've heard this as well, but it takes around 8 years as an average to diagnose an autoimmune disease, which is hectic for people.
To say the least.
Yeah.
And
Crazy.
It is. And so what does the foundation offer?
Well, yeah. So we offer, one-on-one counseling. Before COVID all this happened, it was, more group meetings, cooking classes, which I hope will be back in the fall.
Yeah.
So we do offer like gluten-free. We like to do gluten-free just because that autoimmune response with gluten, whether you have celiac or not, and Lisa has celiac, so I think that's important as well. And celiac runs in my family like crazy. We do events. So we have a race coming up this Saturday. In fact, June 12th, Saturday, 7:30, a 5K and a 10K.
And that we do yearly.
Yes, annual.
The annual race. Excuse me. And of course, we didn't have it last.
Yeah, we just had virtual last year, right? And then we do the golf tournament, annual golf tournament in August. And then we normally do some event like dancing talent event in the fall. Just normal every year besides last year. So, and then we do nutritional guidance, we do exercise guidance, psychological, emotional support. We try to, I help people, if they need to get disability, anything like that. And just, just to have the camaraderie to like I said, the community of like-minded people. It's important. So we do healing meetings, I should say, which are important as well. So, yeah.
And now you mentioned your husband before, and how important is it to have a supportive spouse or supportive family? They
need to be educated just as you are about the disease because they live it just as much as you do. And same with your family. It's so important, and I'll include doctors as well. To have that relationship because it's a long-term relationship. It's a chronic illness, any autoimmune disease, as we know. So it's important to have, that give them the education,
Mm-hmm.
get them involved with your doctor's appointments, get the family knowledgeable about what's going on. And when you live with someone, obviously they're going to know your good days and bad days. And they know when things are starting to like get heated, flaring, so it's very important to just keep them in the know,
Mm-hmm.
communicate, educate.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So,
then in like with doctors, I think it's important to find that, I would say perfect, but well enough fit.
yeah, because you do have, it's like a marriage. I've been very blessed with my rheumatologist, and I had a great neurologist and nephrologist in the past, which I haven't needed. I stick with my rheumatologist, but also I have some good integrative doctors and great chiropractors as well that I've just been super blessed. And even with my primary care physician, which he is retiring at the end of this month, I've been so blessed though with all of that, my whole entire journey. So that's one thing I know that people struggle with. So it's important to have that connection, even if you have to interview doctors before you actually become their patient. I think it's important.
Yeah, because doctors interview patients.
Yeah.
I know I was looking for a family physician and had to go to the website and fill out something and
To be accepted.
And when I told people that, they're like, what? What do you mean? You couldn't just find this, they could refuse you? Really? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I think,
that's okay.
Yeah.
Because then you have, you're going to have a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. Good. Yeah. And so what keeps you motivated?
That's tough. A lot of things do. I mean, I have great friends, family. I have a positive spirit. I feel like a happy person, even though, everybody's dealt different cards, I feel, in life, and there's obstacles that we all have to overcome, and they're just different. And it's always a learning experience. So I feel like it came out of the womb just happy. That's just who I am. And yeah, we all have hard days and it's challenging and stress. But I think just life and people and, just having a good niche and I love what I do. I love my, all aspects of each of my jobs that I do. That's important. I love the people I'm around. I love my friends. I love you. I love my foundation, the people that I work with in that, and love my family, husband, life, all that. My dogs.
Dogs, yeah. Yeah. And so let's do quick fire questions.
Okay.
So
ready.
Okay. So if you could have dinner with any 3 people, dead or alive, who would they be?
I've always liked Reese Witherspoon. I don't know why. She seems like someone fun to hang out with. So I would say her. I think it would be fun to meet Elvis Presley and Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Cool.
If I had to do Hollywood.
What is your morning routine?
The first thing I usually do, either see a client or teach classes.
Yeah. And what is your favorite pump up song? Like what can you listen to that can
pump me up?
Yeah.
I would say like a classic that they play at weddings. Don't Stop Believin' by Journey.
Awesome. Yeah, Journey, my favorite.
Whenever I hear that, I'm just like, yeah.
And if you could turn back time and talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell her?
I would tell her to, kind of grasp yourself. You got a little journey ahead of you. That there's going to be some pain and suffering, but you're going to make it through and everything's going to be okay. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's hard to know it as you're going through it.
Yeah. Oh, you definitely.
You don't always see the light at the end of the tunnel. So we understand that. Dark days sometimes.
Yeah. What is something someone can do in 5 minutes to improve their health?
Meditate. I mean, definitely breathing, meditation, prayer, whatever that means to you. But, being in tune with your body, it's important to take that little bit of time every day to really analyze and breathing. Breathing is so important. Good breathing.
Yeah. And so where can people find you if they want to know more about you, about the foundation?
Sure. So the foundation's website is www.livefitwithlupus.org. And then you can email us at info@livefitwithlupus.org. Our phone number is actually 844-LFWL-ORG or 844-539-5674. Have to think about that. And then on social media, we have Live Fit with Lupus. My personal social media is Lisa McCormick Eveleth, because that's my maiden name. And I have a Lisa Lynn Fit Instagram, along with Live Fit with Lupus Instagram, and Lisa Lynn Fit Facebook page too. So
okay,
I covered them.
Yeah, all those places.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks. You've listened to our new episode all the way through, and for that, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. You can find Lisa Eveleth's contact information in the show notes at theholisticlifecoachpodcast.com. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review at Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram at the Holistic Life Coach Podcast and at the Holistic Life Coach Podcast page on Facebook. Thanks again. Until next time, beautiful souls.